All right, we're gonna go ahead and begin.
Okay.
If they come in, they come in. If they don't, so be it. That's why we're videotaping. Gentlemen, today I have Coach Hayden McBride. He's our assistant men's basketball coach. Yes, I know it's a sports administration class, but he offers a little bit more than just the assistant coaching side of things, and that's why I'm bringing him into you today. All right, he's going to explain a couple things of the business aspect of his profession. He's also going to explain a little bit the athletic and how they kind of bind. Okay? We'll have a question and answer at the end.
Cool.
All right, I'll let you explain a little bit about yourself.
Yep.
Go on from there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my name's Hayden McBride. I'm from Stillwater, Oklahoma. Like Mr. Jackson said, you're gonna get a lot. I'm gonna throw a lot at you early in my presentation. Whatever you hear, whatever feelings and emotions you have, especially in the beginning when I kind of share my life story, don't feel sorry. My goal is I speak all over the country. I've spoken over 20 prisons. I've spoken to over 20 different high schools. I've spoke to 10 NFL programs. I've spoke to probably 15 different college teams. And then I've had over 500 schools come to an FCA ranch where I worked in college, and I spoke to over 500 programs just at the ranch. So I've shared my story a lot. You're gonna hear a lot. Hopefully it resonates with something that's happened to you in your life. What I'll get to at the end is finding the positives and the negatives, and we'll talk more about what that means. But no matter what situation you have in life, good, bad, ugly, whatever it is, you find the positive and the negative, you're gonna be all right. Background about my education. I have an undergrad in business with a focus in accounting and finance. And then I have a master's in sports administration, which allows me to do anything higher education up to athletic director if I were to pursue that down the line. And then I also have a focus inside my master's inside strength and conditioning. I am a strength and conditioning coach, certified as well. So education background, I've got 2 degrees. Life experience, I feel like I have a lot more than most people my age, and that's kind of where we'll begin as we get into my actual presentation here. We're just going to dive right into my personal life. It's going to get heavy. It's going to get deep. Just try to take out of it what you can get, okay? So early life. When I was born, my dad went to prison. As soon as I was born. I never met my dad as a child. And he continued to stay there until I was 18 years old. My mom, at the age of 3, was murdered over drugs. I come from a very drug-inflicted area. So my mom, unfortunately, passed away. It's a cold case, which means it was never solved. So we have no answers as to who. We just know that there was a group of people that she liked to hang out with, drugs were involved, she came up dead. My grandmother was already a drug addict, and so when somebody has no parents, the state goes, well, you either have to live with somebody that's direct family, or we've got to place you in custody of the court, which means you go into a home. My grandmother sobered up long enough to show up to court and sign paperwork, and then from the time that I was 3 until the time I was 12, we either lived inside her car or we lived inside of a trailer that didn't have running water or electricity. And kind of what that looked like on a daily basis is if we weren't in her truck, her car, going from drug house to drug house for her to get high, I would have time to walk to school. I like to have a clean haircut. I keep my beard trimmed, and I like to wear nice clothes. They're not $1,000 clothes, but I like to look presentable. There's people that make fun of me for that. They're like, man, you get a haircut every 2 weeks. When you go to school and you wear dirty clothes and you don't get a haircut for 7 or 8 years, and you don't get to go to the dentist, so you miss like I was missing 2 front teeth for like 6 years. So you can imagine that all I want for Christmas is my 2 front teeth. I live that every year. So going to school, being made fun of, that really hindered my mental state. So now that I'm older, one of the biggest things that I do, and it's a vice, I get a clean haircut and I like to wear clean clothes. And some people give me a hard time for it. I say they make fun of me to this day. It's a hard time, it's a joke, it's a jab with the people that know my story. Diving into this a little bit deeper. As a kid, from 3 to 11, think about what you did as a child. You went home every day. Hopefully you hugged your mom, kissed your mom. Your Dad asked you how your day was. Maybe some of you sat down and had a dinner. You probably played your PlayStation. Maybe you went in the backyard. Okay, so those are all things that when I went home, they weren't there. The lights didn't turn on, the water didn't run. And I can remember like my grandma being passed out for 3 days at a time, and like as a child, you just like walk over and you like pull their eyelids up, and they're like, "Holy shit, is she alive?" So I had a basketball goal that somebody delivered to the neighborhood, and it was broken, and they just threw it up, and they're like, "Hey, like I don't know if this helps, but like here's a basketball goal." So every day, rain, sleet, snow, -10 degree, 95 degrees, from the time I walked home from school to the time the sun went down, I shot baskets. And there was a coach in this first part of my life when I lived in a town called Ripley, Oklahoma, which it's got one stoplight, one gas station, and probably 300 people. And he would drive by every day. He'd be like, "Hey, go inside." And finally one day I just told him, I said, "This is my situation. Why would I go inside?" And so it was snowing and there was ice on the ground. I remember it vividly. He left. Couldn't tell you if it was 30 minutes, 2 hours, whatever. He comes back and he has a jacket. He's like, "If you won't go inside, will you at least put the jacket on?" So I put the jacket on and I continued to shoot hoops. A little bit fast forward, probably about 7 or 8 years old, realized I was a really good baseball player. I grew a little bit quicker than everybody else. I was throwing like 60 miles an hour in first year kid pitch, which is pretty fast for 10 and under. Had a coach from another town hear about my situation. He drives over, picks me up, takes me to eat. Grandma doesn't even know, and I'm like 9, 10 years old. And he goes, "Our community wants to pay for everything. Don't worry about it. Come play baseball with us." So again, coach comes into my life. Mind you, no running water, none of that. So I'm not eating dinner. So I actually found a picture, couldn't get it emailed over. I got one government lunch a day. So when these coaches would pick me up, they would feed me. There's a bus, and I'll kind of jump all over the place, but there's a bus that had a Wednesday night church service. I didn't know who God was. I wasn't a Christian, but they gave a free dinner. So I stood on the street corner and I got picked up on Wednesdays. I went to church. I had no idea what they were talking about, but it was a hot meal, right? Fast forward to the baseball coach, same thing. "Hey, we're going to take you on the weekends. You're going to travel with us. We'll pay for everything. We're going to feed you." Again, I will tie it in later, but finding the positives and the negatives, right? I don't know what I could have done. I could have went in there and been a drug addict like my grandma and found a needle. I could have cut myself. I could have ran around town with the gang members. Like I could have done whatever it was, but for some reason, I was wired to find the positives. I found a basketball. I found people who wanted to take care of me. I found free food, right? Like I stole a lot of food growing up. I'd go down to the gas station and I would steal because I was hungry. But each progression of the story, you're going to see finding the positives and the negative, okay? So that's one of those. Fast forward to junior high. It was more getting picked on in junior high, and then really at the end of my junior high years, started to party a lot. I was a freshman, and by that point, I was our best baseball player in my high school, and I was our best basketball player. So, as some of you guys know, being athletes, if you're good, you come from a small town. What do you put on? You put on a pedestal. And then you come with a story. Now that pedestal doesn't even exist. Now you're just like, oh my gosh, every time you walk in a room, somebody wants to help you. Now, what I didn't do well early is I didn't have attention growing up. I got in trouble a lot. I'm getting swats by the principal. My teachers can't get me to stop talking. But it's because when I go home, there's nobody there. As a child, you've got to have that connection. So you get to junior high, all the high school girls wanted to date me, right? You get introduced to alcohol, you get introduced to weed, Molly, cocaine, like all these things are available. And then you start to realize you're better than everybody else for the first time in your life when you have been the person who got made fun of. So how do you handle that? How do you handle fame? And I use the term fame loosely because I'm not a Hollywood actress, I'm not an NBA player, but it is fame on a lower level inside your home. hometown. And so I did not handle it correctly. I had no supervision. My grandma's still, at this point, sleeping 3 days at a time after she gets high for 5 or 6 days in a row. So I dated every girl that wanted to date me. I went to every party and got drunk on the weekends, and then I went and played basketball and baseball. And that cycle continued until my sophomore year. Into my sophomore year, when my high school coach, again, noted another coach, okay? Another coach comes into my life. And what really got me, right before he came, or I guess he'd been there 1 year, me and my best friend that were partying together, he was like 6'4" as a freshman, and he was our best postman. He spends the night at my house. He goes home and he dies the next day. Brain tumor. Nobody knew it was there. So now you fall off another ledge. Like, that's the only person I could cope, that he came from a rough background. So we coped together. We used basketball. We were starting to pull ourselves out of that party scene, and boom, he dies. So now I feel alone again. So I fall off. I tell my coach, fuck you, I'm never playing basketball again. We hated each other. I screamed at him every day, didn't want him in my life, and this dude just showed up every day, knocked on the door. Now I'm gonna feed you, I'm gonna clothe you, I'm gonna be the father figure you need. And so he pulled me out of a gutter. He gets me through junior and senior year. Gives me 3 meals a day, gives me clean clothes, gives me a father I never had. And then we go into that next phase, which, right here, yep, college. So we get to college, okay? I've made it. I think I'm the first person in 3 generations of my family to graduate high school. I've rode the ups and downs, and I finally think I'm good enough to be a college basketball player. And reality sets in. I've got a car payment. I've got a phone bill. I've got to pay rent. I'm buying my own food at 18 years old. All that stuff costs money. Well, I graduated high school in 2014 before NIL. As you guys know, college athletes, it's a full-time job. I had to work 3 jobs in college, which meant I had to give up my scholarship. Because if I took a scholarship, I'm still in debt. And even the loans I could get couldn't pay for the things I had. I was paying things that your parents pay, right? Like, Doc, and I needed $3,000 or $4,000 a month to cover my bills. You can't do that as a college athlete. So, I give up the dream. I find a sport called rugby, which doesn't take up your time. It's a club sport, but we played a Big 12 schedule. So it was basically a college sport, but they had no funding, so they couldn't umbrella it under NCAA at our institution. So I'm working 3 jobs, playing rugby, I'm drinking again on the weekends, just on the weekends at this point, because it's college. Fast forward to December, my best friend comes over to my house. He had just bought a pistol, 6-shooter revolver. He had 1 bullet in it. And we have a party. He is so fascinated. He's 6'5". He's on steroids. He's a bodybuilder for Oklahoma State. He's a national champion bodybuilder. He is bulletproof. And he passed that gun around and showed everybody. And he was sitting with one of our best friends, and he thought he knew where the bullet was, because if you click it and you put it in that first spot past the chamber, you have 5 clicks before that bullet goes off. He thought he had it. He's passed it to 10 people in the party. What are they doing? They're pulling the trigger. They know where the bullet is. Gets back to him. He gives the gun to her, and it's small, and he goes, "It's just a toy gun. Pull the trigger. If you don't believe me, point it at me and pull the trigger." Boom. Kills him. And he's from me to that wall. So I got to hold my best friend as he dies. You fast forward to the next year. My brother, who I did not grow up with, is a heroin addict. Was a heroin addict. I get a call. He used his last needle. He overdosed. My 3rd year of college. I'm drinking 7 days a week. I'm hanging out with a specific, and I won't name the group, but a specific sport on campus that is known for selling drugs every day, drinking, going to the bars at noon, still playing rugby, but I'm not taking care of my body. Boom, blow my knee out. ACL, MCL, meniscus, patella tendon. Now I'm thinking, what do I have left? Best friend, brother, body, Now I go off the rails. Now I'm not even going to class. I fall beneath a 2.0. I do that for another year, for my 4th year. They say, hey, you're not going to graduate. You're done. And so I'd had a buddy ever since freshman year that had said FCA, 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 Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And I said, you know what, I think I'm finally going to go. And so this guy, he's Fellowship of Christian Athletes, like in today's time, you can't go in and talk to schools about God. So the way we spin it is, it's leadership. We come in and teach leadership with underlying Christian principles. And he just said, you have a story to tell, you got to stop feeling sorry for yourself. And what he did is he drug me out of a gutter, similar as every coach had done previous, because he's a coach, he's an FCA coach, right? That's all FCA coordinators and sponsors, we're all coaches. They have it in mostly every high school and all colleges, right? So again, picks me up out of the gutter, and he's telling me everything that I already know, which is what I preach, finding the negatives, or the positives and the negative. So he gets me back on my feet. He's like, okay, we got to get your grades up. So I start going to the business office. Well, what did I figure out? That they have career-wise Wednesdays every Wednesdays. We go back to what I was doing as a child. They were giving free food every Wednesday. So then I start going to this stuff to get free food. And then what I realized is the second piece of what I believe in is genuine relationships, and the third piece is networking, no matter where you're at in your life. That I can go shake hands with Fortune 500 business people and start selling myself and telling my story and hopefully get a job, because we're going on year 5 and we haven't figured shit out, right? So I start doing that. I start traveling for FCA and speaking. I start going to prisons. I start networking in the business school. I start working at the business school, just in the front office, so I can meet with advisors. Well, guess what? When you're nice to your teachers and you work with your advisors, I saw my grades mysteriously going up. And I wasn't smart, but what did I do? I built genuine relationships. I spent time with them. And then once the relationship piece is there, I can what? I can navigate their networks. You're not going to get anywhere in life without networking. I shouldn't have any of the degrees I have, and I shouldn't have any of the jobs I've ever held. But I could walk in a room, I could look you in the eyes, I could connect to you about something genuinely, and now we can network together. That's how you do it. That's how you're successful in life. Does that make sense? So, got off topic a little bit there, but so FCA basically saved my life, got me back on the path of finding free meals and networking. Again, pulls me out of the gutter. That's the theme of my life, okay? I will touch briefly, I did get to work for Sporting KC in college as a game day events coordinator, which is sports administration. That's something you could use with a sports admin degree. So I worked for Sporting KC for a summer, unpaid internship. At the time, they were the #1 soccer team in the country for MLS. They just won the cup. We would flip the stadium, we'd put seat covers on, we'd do bowl checks, we would make sure the turf is clean, we would work game day stations. I got put on the confetti cannon down in the blue cauldron of hell, which is where their crazy fans sat, and I would shoot the confetti cannon off when they scored a goal. All that stuff's cool. Make sure you do your research, because when you work a job like that, you get worked to death. Think about what is a stadium, how do they make money? You gotta have events. Well, if you got how many games, you're in soccer, right, or are you in tennis? Soccer. How many games a week do you play?
Okay, now we are not playing, but in season like 2.
2, and one of them's at home, right?
Yes.
How do I make money if I have 1 game a week? I can't, right? I'm a business owner and I own a business and I only make 1 sale a week. Am I making money? Unless I'm selling Rolls Royce, then I'm making money, right? But so what do we have to do? We have to fill those dates with things. So we had concerts, we had dog park days, we had if you're blonde hair, come hang out and meet somebody that's got, like, I'm serious, like stupid stuff. And so we would have to prep that arena. We'd have to take the turf out. We'd have to cover the seats. We'd have to cover certain branding, because certain brands would pay to have sponsorships in that stadium. Well, they're not sponsors for this event. So now we've got to cover that brand. And so we would do that. We would probably flip the stadium 5 to 6 times a week, which means you're working 20 hours a day as an unpaid intern. And then if you go into working for Sporting KC, if you got the job after the internship, you made $35,000 a year to do that same exact thing year round. Okay? So if you don't do your research, if you don't understand the finances, and you don't understand the spectrum of your area of that job, you're going to be miserable like I was. And and that was my last internship in sports administration. Now, they're not all that bad. Some of them are good, right? Like baseball, I had a bunch of guys that worked internships for minor league baseball stadiums. They loved it, right? Because baseball, what? They play a lot more games, okay? So now we're looking at 5 games at home. If I'm not having to flip a stadium and I'm just game day operations for baseball, and I'm at the park, and people are around me, and I'm a people person, right? That's a little bit more fun. So know your audience, know your sport before you make any of those decisions, okay? So again, we're gonna see another fall off here. I think I get my life together, similar to when I left high school, right? Somebody came in and saved me, boom, I'm good. I don't need nobody, right? I get to Cintas. I had networked through the business Career-Wise Wednesdays. I got an interview with Cintas, which is a Fortune 500 company. They're the largest facility service and uniform company. They take 50 graduates from across the country, only 50, and they put them in a thing called MT program, which is a management trainee program. Of those 50, they get sent to locations all over the country, and you learn the process. So you're a plant manager, which being a plant manager consists of being over 130 employees in a $10 million plant that has chemicals, uniforms, facility service, all this, and you manage 130 people over 3 shifts. Then you go into service, and you learn how to manage 15 routes. So if you guys were my drivers, you would drive to stop, and you would deliver uniforms. And I would manage you, and we would talk about growing your route sales, right? So if your customers are doing 7 million in sales for this quarter, I may tell you, hey, we need to get up to 8.5, because that's what my boss is telling me. How do we grow that? Well, I got to build relationships with my customers that I see every day and say, hey man, you're in last year's uniform. Maybe let's think about upgrading to this year's. Like we've got a new FR, which is fire retardant pants out. They're a little bit more comfortable. I bet your employees would be happy if you got them in something a little bit more comfortable. That's a great idea. We've got a great relationship. I'm going to listen to you. Boom. That's $150 more per pair of jeans. Multiply that by, if your company is 300 people, times 300. And then we get you 7 pairs per 300 people. Now with 300 times 7, you see how the number goes up? Okay, so we would look at sales growth on our routes, and then times that by 15 routes, right? So managing 15 drivers and all of their customers. Then you go into sales, and you would work with the sales manager, and you would figure out how to grow new sales, right? So I've got to go out and I've got to go to Mr. Jackson. I got to say, hey, you own a mechanic shop, man. Your guys are wearing out their shirts. Why don't you just buy some shirts from us? We pick them up every week, we wash them, we deliver them back to you. Now your guys aren't going home in their washer and dryer, and they're not getting grease in their wife's washer, and they're not getting bitched at. That's a great idea. Sign me up, right? So we would do that. I sat down in an interview and I sold myself so well that I didn't do that. I got put in the group vice president's office, and I worked under our GVP, Steve Prince. And I was responsible for going to every location in the Central Plains, which was 63 of them, and I would meet with plant, because I enjoy numbers. And so I could go to our plant managers, and I would actually coach them on how to get our linen costs down. And I would walk through plants, and I would see, like, we were just not taking care of our areas in one of our plants, and so the rags are falling on the ground, they're getting put under rollers, and that's called a destruction cost, right? So we're destroying some of our product, or we're not rolling mats properly, so they're getting bent, they're getting worn, they're getting torn. Damage costs. Now we got to go buy more mats, right? So I would walk around with plant managers, and I would coach them on how to operate at lower cost efficiency. How I did that, I went into an interview and I told my story. I was like, you know what, this is what I've gone through, this is kind of how I think, and again, found the positives and the negative, and ultimately the job that I didn't have a GPA, because you had to have a 3.0 or higher to be hired, you had to have a certain type of business degree, which mine was a focus in accounting, didn't match it, but what I was able to do is walk in, make a genuine connection, and network, and I got a job, and then I got the job that even the next step that I wasn't qualified for. So don't ever be afraid to put yourself in a situation that you're not supposed to be in. Because in turn, what you're putting the pressure on yourself, that may be something that people look at and respect. And I've been made fun of, I had no confidence, so I didn't even see it that way. So fast forward to Cintas, get hired. I'm making $80,000 a year as a 23-year-old. never had running water until high school, never had food, clean clothes. What do you think the first thing I went and did? I bought, I wore nice suits every day. I went out to happy hour every night. I was drinking. I was hanging out with the wrong crowd of people that you guys will learn this in life. When you're rich and you have too much money, you tend to have expensive hobbies, which are sometimes not illegal, sometimes aren't healthy, sometimes whatever it may be. Again, started hanging out with the wrong people. Thought I was better than I made. I don't need nobody else. I fall off. I get depressed. I start drinking 7 days a week. I stop wearing nice suits. Start showing up to work in a wrinkled shirt. Sleeping 3 hours, 4 hours, hungover. My productivity goes down. Okay? And you end up mentally just wondering, well, what's next? Like, fuck this. Okay? And so I ended up quitting the job. I wasn't happy. I go to Apex Systems, which is an IT consulting firm. So I go in rooms. You have your lower level, you have your middle management, and you have the CEO. I would meet with CEOs and vice presidents of IT infrastructure, and I would consult them on if they needed to build like a cloud storage system. Okay, they would hire me. I would hire a team. I'd send data developers in there, and I would charge them $500,000 for 6 months to use my contractors, and then I would get 5% of that every time they got paid. So whatever they got paid weekly, I get 5%. And so I'm working with all the hospitals in Tulsa. Again, now I'm making over $100,000 because I'm off commission. Well, then I fall into a bigger hole because now I'm indulging even more money into my bad habits. Fall off, not right mentally again. Well, this time I had the courage to pull myself out and call the FCA director. And I said, I'm doing stupid shit, probably about to lose my job. What should I do? I'm not happy. And without hesitation, he said, you need a coach, period. That's who you are. And so I quit my job within 48 hours, and I sent 542 emails exactly across the country to coaches. And I got one reply. And it was Texas Wesleyan University. Knew nothing about them. Had never coached a day in my life, but they had just won a national championship at the NAI level, and they won 10 years prior, and then they won 15 straight conference titles. I'm going, holy shit, why did this guy reply to me? He had a business background. My resume is very professional, coming from the business sector, so he said that stuck out to him, and then in my email I said, I don't care if I get paid, I know this is my calling, and I need somebody to give me a chance and teach me how it's done properly. And he said, every person that wants to be a coach comes in there and says, this is what I can do for you. I'm this, that, and the other. And they're very cocky and they're very confident. Most of those guys don't last in my profession. And so I didn't know anything about that. Luckily, I wasn't confident, and that's what got me in the door. So I get there, I make $0 my first year as a college coach, because that's the price that you pay to get in. I was working at a gym at nights. I was wondering if I didn't belong, but I showed up every single day. And then again, what did I do? On the positives and the negative, okay? I sat there and I said, what do I need to do? And he goes, you've got to use the logo on your chest to get your foot in the door for the next step. So DFW, if you don't know anything about that, it's Dallas-Fort Worth, and it's the biggest recruiting hub for basketball. Isaiah is from that area. That's where I recruited him. Well, they have almost every AAU tournament that's Nike Circuit, Under Armour, Puma, Adidas is based out of there at some point in the year. So I walked in all those events, not to recruit, but to shake coaches' hands. You guys were coaches. I would sit down and I'd spend 20 minutes with you, 20 minutes with you. I wouldn't talk to players. I would ask questions about them, who they were, how they got in, how they sustained it. And I didn't know this, but the logo I had on my chest was so well respected that those coaches didn't know who I was, but they took the opportunity to talk to me just because of the logo. And so I used it. That was my driving force. I started realizing it. Oh shit, Texas Wesleyan's a brand, national champion. I'm talking to everybody. And so within 9 months of being at Texas Wesleyan, I landed a Division I basketball job, coaching job. I was at Sam Houston State University. Went from being unpaid, no coaching experience, 9 months, Division I. Again, the only way that got me there, genuine connections, genuine relationships, networking, finding positives and a negative. If I don't use those three things, probably fizzled out and I'm back in business, okay? So I get to Texas West, or I get to Sam Houston State. I think I've made it. I'm like, shit, I'm Division I coach, I'm on TV, all my friends are calling me, social media's blowing up. I realized how hard the Division I lifestyle is, okay? I slept in my bed 6 times that season. We were in the WAC. For what you guys don't know about the WAC, it's the West Athletic Conference. Cal Baptist, Southern Utah, Utah Valley, Utah Tech, okay, UTRGV, New Mexico State, all West Coast. So when we fly out of Houston, down in the South Central, okay, we're gone for 6 days because we're going to play 2 games that week. So we fly out to Cali, fly out to Utah, fly out on Monday, you don't come home until Sunday, and you repeat it for the whole season, okay? I wasn't prepared for Division I prepared myself networking, but nobody prepared for me what that mental load looked like. You work 20 hours a day. You're always cutting up film, always in the office. Okay, those guys, the divorce rate at Division I right now is 72%. Those guys don't see their families. I just sat with a coach from Nevada named Dixon. He has an apartment for the last 5 years, 5 minutes from campus. He hasn't lived with his wife or 3 kids in 5 years. But he makes $500,000 a year. He's a Division I coach. He's the associate head coach, right? So what I'm learning is there's give and take, right? You want to work for the right people. You don't want to work for the wrong people, okay? Because those people will consume your life. And if you allow it and you kind of put that on a pedestal and that's your God, it'll ruin your life. And it was my God. I had made it. Like, I thought I was it. So I started getting depressed 6 days a week, not in my own bed. My best friend, suicide by cop in the middle of the season, like best friend childhood, gets on drugs real bad, gets in a motorcycle race with a cop, gets off, reaches in his pocket while he's looking at him. You're in a police chase, like they're shooting, right? Come to find out it was just a pack of cigarettes. He did it on purpose, okay? So now I'm handling that. I went through a divorce. We didn't live together. Didn't see her for 9 months. Okay? So all this stuff hits me, and realized, like, I will be back at that level. That's the goal, but I will do it the right way. Like, I had to go through that. So again, I pull myself out of the gutter. I call my FCA coach. I call my high school basketball coach, who's a father to me, and I was like, what do I do? I met with my head coach, who at the time, Sam Houston State, he takes the New Mexico State job. He doesn't take me with him, so I'm mad at him, because that's my guy. Like, I thought he was gonna take care of me. And they all said the same thing. They're like, you need to go to junior college, you gotta learn to recruit, you gotta learn how to handle this mental pressure, you've gotta be better. Like, you have the intangibles, you've got the business side, you've got the networking, you've got the connections, but you gotta be able to handle this pressure. And you've gotta be able to lead men correctly, because I wasn't leading men correctly at all. Okay, I was just surviving. So I go to Paris Community College. It's a historic junior college in Texas. They've won a bunch of national championships. Worked for a guy who's coached there for 30 years. He's a legend. Okay, so as my brain's churning about, okay, I've got to figure out what's right, what's wrong, what I stand up for, what I don't. I get there. This guy is not doing the things the right way. I'm going, do I stand by, watch it happen? Do I get myself out of the situation? So I called Coach Eddie. Coach Eddie had become a mentor in my life. And, he's going through some things himself. And I'm calling him every day. And I'm like, we just had a board meeting. Like the board was getting involved. The president's talking to me. And so I just said, you know what? I think this could be a turning point in my career. And I chose to resign and stood up for the things that I believed in on how to treat my players. And from that moment on, I chose to come here after resigning from that job and was like, I gotta go work for Kenny. I gotta become a better Christian. I gotta become a better husband for my future relationship. I've gotta be a better leader of my guys. And I've gotta use my story and teach others how to turn a negative into a positive. And so coming here, start working with Kenny. We didn't have the year we wanted, but we went through so many trials that we're going to be healthy next year. We're going to be all right. But we had to go through those trials, and I had to prepare myself to be a better human. And so that kind of leads into hoops for him, which is an organization that mentors, from a Christian standpoint, it is a Christian-based organization, but college coaches and college athletes. And so I do that every week. I meet with a Hall of Fame coach who's already in the Hall of Fame of Texas basketball, won 5 state championships, and now he just travels the country mentoring guys that look like me and guys that look like you. And that's something that I have to, what I've realized is, if you've noticed in my story, every time I feel like I make it, I stop asking for help and I fall off. So that'd be my advice. When you think you've made it, that's when you pull these guys tight, because things get hard and you start elevating. That's when you're being elevated in life and you're reaching new, like I reach a new height in my life every day that I wake up. Does it make sense? Growing up without my parents, like every day of my life is something that I can't go to mom and dad and say, man, when you turn 30, like, can you walk me through, like, I don't have that. So I'm building that every day. So what I've learned is, whether you come from a good family or a bad family, pull mentors in. That way you can be elevated quicker and you can be prepared. Because every time I elevate, I think I've got it, and then I fail. Okay, so you've got to learn to grow there. My biggest piece from college journey is networking, genuine relationships. If you can't do those 2 things, you're not going to go anywhere in life. I'll touch on the confidence thing that I've got there. I've got notes, man. I got to give myself notes. I'm not a perfect public speaker, but Texas Wesleyan, I didn't believe I had any confidence to be a coach. I stood around, I watched, and I learned. And the only thing that really got me my next job was something that I already had internally, which was my networking skills. I got to Sam Houston State. We were the #1 mid-major team in the country. We were in the top 25 of all schools. We won our conference. We broke every school record for wins, 3-point percentage, everything. And I've got some graphics at the end that I'll show you. And so my confidence kind of boosted. So I felt like, you know what, I can do this. Like I could be an assistant coach. Get to Paris. Now I really think I can be a coach because I'm standing up for what I believe in. Then I work for Kenny. When I got here with Kenny, I was like, man, I'm a good assistant coach. Like anything this guy needs, I'm making his life easier. Okay, that's an assistant coach's job. Recruiting, coaching, gathering information. And you've got to compile all the best of each of those categories and present it to your coach so he can make the best decision possible for the program. Okay, that's my job. So now what I've learned is, now that I'm here, now my confidence factor has grown to, man, when Coach Kenny and I leave, whenever that is, I'm going to be the head coach. And so that's something that I've really realized lately is, don't get stuck where you're at. Kind of always remember where you came from. Because I remember Texas Wesleyan, I didn't even feel comfortable being in the gym. And I coached 7 pros that year. We've got 15 guys overseas that make a ton of money, more money than anybody in this room combined, to play basketball for a living. And they call me daily, right? That's where I started. And now I'm here, and now I have the confidence that I can be a head coach. But when I was in the midst of all that, I was like, damn, I don't know if I belong. I don't know. No, fuck that. Remember where you come from and how much you've grown in each step. So that was my last piece for that slide, coaching journey. My conclusion, I'm a very desperate human being, and I'm a very obsessed human being. And it's very hard to be obsessed and depressed or desperate in today's time, right? I don't want to call anybody out. I don't want this to sound bad, but it's like, who in here had 2 parents in their house? Did you guys have meals every day, right? Had PlayStation, right? So that is beautiful, right? Like there's no reason to be upset about that, but it's kind of easy to be comfortable in life, right? So being comfortable doesn't equal being desperate. So I have a gift that a lot of people don't have, is being desperate. I was desperate my whole childhood. So now what am I? I'm desperate to be great. I'm obsessed with it. So if you can become, maybe desperate's not the right word for you, but it's the word I use because it keeps me going. But if you can become obsessed with being great, become obsessed with being a good husband, become obsessed with being a good student, become obsessed with having a great family, you're going to be successful. Because being successful doesn't mean a dollar amount in your bank account, right? It means your happiness, your family's happiness. So I try to be obsessed with greatness. I'm obsessed with being a better human, a better better Christian, a better coach to Joe and Isaiah, a better co-worker with Mr. Jackson here, right? Again, how do I do that? Genuine relationships, I network, I love on people, right? All those things, okay? Use your story. If you have a story, use it. I use mine as fuel. I don't project it on people unless I'm asked to come speak. When people walk by me, they probably think that I come from money, or they think that I'm a normal human being because of the way I present myself. But why do I have to be rich to be presentable? Like, fuck that. Like, you got a nice car, I want a nice car. I'm gonna go work for it, right? So don't ever let anybody give an opinion that doesn't deserve to give an opinion about you. Make sense? Okay, if those people aren't in your circle, let them talk. You got haters, you're doing the right thing. Again, genuine connections. If you can't sit down with somebody and actually want to genuinely connect with them, you're not going to go anywhere. Like, I may sit down and talk with you, and we may realize that we have something in common, and in 10 years, we might be business partners. I don't know. Right? Like, I'm coaching a kid right now, he wants to start a business. In 10 years, like, we're more than likely going to be business partners. Like, we're making a business model together. Okay? And he's followed me to 2 different schools. His family paid out of pocket for him to be here, no scholarship, because they wanted him here. Because I sat down with his family 2.5 years ago, and I made a promise I was going to take care of their son. Okay? In 10 years, him and I might be millionaires, and I might not be coaching. All because I sat down and I genuinely wanted to know somebody. Networking. When I was at Sam Houston State, I was over all of our donors. So I would take our donors to eat. They flew with us. I bought their tickets. I made sure they were comfortable at the hotel. Now I get to Pratt. What do we not have? We don't have money, okay? I've got 2 guys in Texas that are billionaires, and they're the first 2 that are willing to write a check for me at any school that I'm at, because I networked and I treated them well, okay? Now they're not writing $1 million checks like they are for Sam Houston State, but you know, if we need $500, they're gonna write a check for $500. There's levels to it, okay? And then finding the positives and the negatives, okay? That's how I've been successful. It's how I've beat a statistic of 99.9% of the people that had my childhood are dead or in prison. There's 0.01% of people that can beat that statistic. And I'm one of those few people, and I'm blessed. And so if you're anywhere in a statistic, use it, fuel it, and fight those demons every day, and you're gonna be all right. I've got some stuff here. So I've got, from my time at Sporting Kansas City, Sporting KC, my soccer guys will appreciate this. This is the stadium. We watched the World Cup that summer. So that picture on your left there, we're down in the club seats, and we're watching it on the big screen. And then the second one is a picture from up top. We did bowl walks every day, and bowl walks suck. You take a screwdriver, and you walk around all these seats, and all these seats have cup holders. That's what you get to do with your screwdrivers, you and 10 interns. Make sure all the cup holders are tight. You bowl walk every day for free. So again, do your research before you take internships that are unpaid. That's my advice there. When I was at Centos, obviously wore a suit and tie every day. Okay, that's Fortune 500 company land right there. You're going to be in a suit.
It's a touch screen.
Can I zoom out? Okay, perfect. So this guy, this guy was a MT. He was an MT, and then obviously I was an MT, but I was an elevated MT. So Reed was in his plant rotation, so he wore plant gear every day. This guy's name was actually Hayden Mosby. My name was Hayden McBride, so we were HM squared most of the time. He was in his service rotation, and then I was visiting their location. And we all graduated Oklahoma State together, so 50 of the people that they chose, 3 of them actually came from the same college, which was huge because we had a big pipeline. So again, you're gonna go into business. Like, what kind of business am I going into? Do I wanna work from home? Do I wanna have a suit and tie job and work 8 to 5 and travel on the weekends to conferences and be gone a lot? Or do I want to go into like an IT consultant job, which is the second job I held out of college, where I get to walk in a room and meet with big wigs, and I would take them golfing 2 days a week. And I would take them to happy hours, because they were my clients, so I have to make them happy so they'll spend more money with me, okay? Again, relationship building, okay? Networking, right? All this, no matter what you do in life, it's gonna come down to those two things, okay? How you treat people, how you can genuinely make them feel connected to you. Because if I make you feel connected to me, you're more than likely gonna buy my product or spend more money with me, because you trust me, okay? Trust factor. Throw that up there for you to look at. When I was in business school, this is me and the president of the School of Business in Oklahoma State, there on your left, Dr. Eastman. So I worked for the School of Business. He funded my trip. I studied abroad in Madrid and Seville, Spain. So I got to go to a Real Madrid soccer game, and he paid out of pocket. Again, somebody heard my story, and I made a comment one day, man, it'd be so cool to go overseas. The advisors who had been working for my 5th year were like, man, this guy's got his shit together. And they went all the way to the president, and they said, can somebody pay for him? We want him to go. And so again, I treated people nice. I sat down and intentionally tried to get to know people for a whole year. It was being selfish because I had to graduate. Like, I knew what I was doing. I was being manipulative. But it turned into something real. And then when it became real, it got paid back to me, and somebody paid for a trip for me to go overseas that I didn't deserve. So that was pretty cool. I had some more pictures, but my email, it wouldn't let me send very many at a time. When I was at Sam Houston State, I got the opportunity to coach at my alma mater, which is Oklahoma State University. I had dreamed of playing there my whole life, and then, we talked about my college life. It, just imploded, and I thought life was over. Well, everything comes full circle. I coached in Gallagher, Iowa, and when the people from my hometown in Stillwater had heard that I'd made it to coaching at the Division I level, they wrote a big article and put it on the front page, which was awesome. Didn't realize I had that many people, again, it was always poor me in high school, like, this sucks, like, my life sucks. My story sucks. I didn't realize that people were actually rooting for me. And so, again, you should always make sure the people at the beginning of your story, you're checking in with those people, because it turns out they actually really want you to succeed, no matter where you're from. We won the Rocket Mortgage tip-off. So in college basketball, you go play in the Bahamas, you go play in Florida, you go play all over the country, Maui, for the Thanksgiving tournament. So we played in the Thanksgiving tournament down in Fort Myers, Florida, and we ended up winning it. That's the picture there on the left. And then this is one of my favorite pictures. We were the #1 seed in our conference tournament, playing in the championship game out in Vegas for the WAC tournament on ESPN. And we were playing Grand Canyon University, who was the 2 seed. And we hit a big shot. We were playing to go to the NCAA tournament that night. And they captured that photo. The guy that's to my right, he's making $2 million overseas right now. He's making $1 million overseas. He just joined the military for the Marines, turned down $1 million contracts to serve his country. This guy played overseas, and then this guy's now, he was our assistant strength coach. He's now the head strength coach at George Mason University, and they just won the most games in school history, so we got to be a part of that.
So, remember, quick?
Yeah. And then this guy just signed a $1 million deal to the NBL, which is the Australian Pro League, and I'm going to his graduation in 2 weeks. His mom flew over. They didn't have a car. They didn't have a hotel. It was expensive to come from Australia, so I gave her my apartment. I gave her my car keys, and I said, whatever you need. So now when Mama Hoofner is what I call her, she called me and said, I'm coming to Cam's graduation, and she goes, you have to be there. And so I said, yes, ma'am, I'll be there. So, again, genuine connections, genuine networking, and you're going to have connections for the rest of your life. Like that guy, I might end up being his agent. There's a couple guys overseas right now that they're looking to hire me as their agent, right? And they're blowing up. Again, 10% of the salary. Like they're taking care of me because I took care of them. I got to do anything. But I treated them right. I loved on them, and we're connected for life. It's brotherhood. This is everything we did at Sam Houston State. We had the program records of season wins. regular season and total. We beat OU at OU, which was huge. We beat Utah at Utah, which was huge. We never beat a high major team in school history. We beat 2 in the same season. We ended up losing in the championship game of the conference tournament. So you have to win your conference tournament to go to the NCAA tournament. So we went to what's called the NIT, which is just as big now, and we were the #1 overall seed in that whole tournament. This guy right here plays overseas. This guy was the player of the year in the WAC. He's in the G League, and then he plays overseas as well. So we had 7 guys on that team as well that I got to coach that are now pro athletes. So coached a lot of high-level guys, and that's kind of why we coach a little bit different here with these guys is I can give them access to something that they haven't had access to before in terms of being a true pro. You can never start those habits, whether you're going to be a businessman, a father, or a pro basketball player. If you can be a pro on and off the court in everyday life, you're going to be okay. Make sense? That's it. So I'll open it up to questions, if any. Go.
So I see on your bio that you started the strength and conditioning program. Was it Texas?
Texas Lift, yeah.
I was just kind of curious on what's the process to start a new program like that? Who do you have to talk to? What do you have to do?
So they had just lifted like basketball historically with Coach Shingleton had just gone in there and he wrote lifts up on the board. So it wasn't anything. I went through the school. Each sport has a strength coach, and at that level, sometimes you don't have one. Like Division IIs, Division I's have to have one. NEI and JUCO don't. So if you can hire a coach that has strength and conditioning background, I'm now also a more valuable hire than a guy who just wants to be a strength coach or an assistant basketball coach. So that was kind of a strategic part that I skipped over is when I went to quit my job, I got my master's online and I got it focused in strength and conditioning because I had done research with some of these schools that I were emailing. Nobody had a strength coach. And we talk about how you separate yourself in a room. You want a job, I want a job. Who's more resourceful? So when I sent in my application, I made sure I put strength and conditioning on there, and they never had it. And so when I got there, it wasn't obviously my first focus, but I started realizing, man, we're just going in here. Most teams across the country just go in the weight room and lift. There's no process to it. And so I just went to the coach and said, hey, I've power lifted in college. I've got my master's in it. I enjoy it. Let me take it off your plate. And coaches have ownership problems where we don't want to give up ownership because it's our program, it's our ship. I don't want to let you run something in my program because I'm trying to win. And he'd already won 2 national championships, so he was obsessive. So it took 6 months for me to prove to him that I actually knew what I was talking about. And then he walked in and he said, okay, you can do it. And I did that by kind of helping guys perform in the weight room, being knowledgeable, kind of talking about it a lot to him, like, hey, I saw we were doing this. This is why I think we should do this. Here's the data. Here's the research. I would make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for the guys because I realized our guys weren't eating. You guys skip a lot of meals. You're college athletes, right? That pisses me off. So I would make peanut butter and jellies, and I'd say, hey, to get in the weight room, you got to eat it. I'd toss another sandwich every day. And he just came to me and sat down and he goes, you've got it. So I mapped out a program. We operate on 8-week blocks. We do hypertrophy blocks for 8 weeks. We do power blocks for 8 weeks. We do strength blocks for 8 weeks. So it'll be in the 12 to 15 rep range at a certain percentage. And it'll be 8 to 12 for a certain percentage. And then in that last phase, you're 5 reps, 3 to 5, at 90% max. So that's all I did. I just developed a strength program, applied it specifically to men's basketball. Good question.
What's the biggest differences you had to learn from going to JUCO level to a Division I level? Like how you said, besides how you said, I remember you saying something about learning the
mental side.
Yeah, but besides that, what's the biggest difference?
Biggest difference is luxury. We would get on a charter bus that had food on it. We'd charter to Houston Airport. We'd walk out to the tarmac. We'd get on a plane. We'd fly to our game. Have a charter bus and food waiting. We'd go to the hotel. We stayed at Marriott's, really nice Marriott's. We had nice dinners in ballrooms night before games and day of games. We'd play the game. We'd fly to the next school. So we played Southern Utah and we'd fly into St. George, and then we'd fly up to Provo, we'd play Utah Valley, and then we'd fly home. We have a charter waiting for us, take us home. So luxury is the biggest difference, and resources, right? We had 10 coaches. So Joe works out with me, Isaiah works out with Coach Joe, you know, and each like 2 or 3 players have a film coach. Everybody goes to a strength coach who has 2 assistant strength coaches at the weight room, and us coaches don't have to deal with that because we can coach basketball. I think that's the biggest difference. But what makes a good coach at the next level is somebody who's been at the JUCO level, because I've now done everything. I do the paperwork, I do enrollment, I talk to the professors, I handle weights, I handle practice, I handle film, I handle scout, I handle player relationships, I handle everything. And so it helps you be humble at the next level because you've gone through it. And that was something that I was missing because I had got my networking outkicked my preparation, basically. I had networked so well that somebody was like, I can't not hire this guy because he knows everybody. Like, I literally met every coach in the country, and I was proud of it. And they could pick the phone up, they could call me. Grant McCaslin at Texas Tech, great mentor of mine. KT Turner, who was at Kentucky with John Calipari, he's now the head coach at UTA. All these guys that I met and just sat down and talked to. I write handwritten letters once a month. I've got a list of coaches, and I send 10 a month. I cycle every year. Every Christmas, I write them all a letter, like, made sure it was genuine. Not just, hey man, what can you do for me? I need a job. Like, no, how are your kids? And I don't ever bring up a job. That's the one thing I don't do. Some guys do. Sometimes it works for them, sometimes it don't. But I want them to think about me like, no, like, I want the dude who treats the janitor the same way as the CEO. So I got off topic there, but that's the difference. Is lack of resources and more responsibilities, but it prepares you better. Good question.
On the coaching side,
Yep.
how do you deal with an athlete who isn't listening to you?
We got many different ways. Can we turn the camera on? No, I'm kidding. No. Typically, if there's a problem like that, it's handled outside of practice. There's something deeper going on if he's not listening. Maybe something's going on at home. Maybe something's going on in the classroom. Maybe girlfriend's mad at him. Those are things you've got to be able to identify as a coach, and you've got to peel the layers back. Like sometimes it's so easy. Like if Isaiah's not listening, I'm just like, damn it! Like just do it right? Like that's the easy thing to like yell at you. But what really good coaches can do, and again, that's something that I got better at as the year went on because I was not good at that. Joe will tell you, like I'm ready to jump down your throat because I'm obsessed with greatness, right? Like I want to be great every day. Well, you've got to be able to understand the situation, peel it back. Okay, what's going on? Has it been like this all practice? He wasn't like this yesterday. Is that his normal personality? Is that how he is every day? Is this a one-off? Like you've got to go through all these things in a split second. Identify the situation. Maybe it's just me grabbing Isaiah, taking my arm around him, walking him over here off the court, and being like, "What's up, man?" And my auntie called me, and Gramps ain't doing good. And I'm fucked up in the head right now. Okay, cool. Let's get through this day, and we'll talk after practice. Or is it the kid's a headache, and he's been a jackwagon since he got here? Now maybe it's, hey man, come with me, and we're gonna flip a tire out here because you're not locked in. Being disrespectful, or it can be anything in between both of those two things. So you got to be able to assess the situation. Good question.
Okay, so as a coach, which qualities do you look for in a player to be part of the team? What do you like to be?
It depends on what our program is. Like I told a lot of our guys this year, they probably couldn't play for my last coach, and that's the reality of it, because you can have different standards at different levels, and then like a guy like him, it doesn't matter what level he's at, Coach Hooten, this guy right here, doesn't matter what level he's at, his standard is the standard, and it is, he's probably the toughest coach I've worked for. That year, we had the #1 defense in the country. Everybody knows who Houston is, Coach Sampson. Okay, they've had the #1 defense for the last 3 years. Well, the year before they started their run, they were #2 to us. And it takes a mean individual to get kids to lock into defense on that high of a level, or it takes a really good leader. This guy is a little bit of both. Coach Sampson is a little bit of both. So those qualities, if I was recruiting for him, you got to be a tough son of a gun. Like, you have to have the thickest skin possible, and then on top of that, you have to have Division I qualities. Can you jump out of the gym? Can you shoot the ball better than anybody? Can you pass at a high level? Can you defend at better than 99% of the recruits in the country? Because you weren't playing for us if you didn't defend. This guy right here, first team All-American defense. This guy right here, second team. This guy, first team. These two, first team in the conference. Okay, this guy played in this conference, scored a lot of points. He scored 6 points a game for us at Division I level. He was the best defender in the country. So he's on a full ride, now he makes $1 million a year. Okay, so a lot of our guys get it twisted. I got to score 20 points a game. I got to be the best shooter. The next level, it's a whole different thing. If it's here, Coach Kenny and I, his qualities as a coach, you got to be able to defend, you got to be able to pass, you got to be able to shoot, and you got to be coachable. Okay, it's real simple to play for us, but you've got to have the athletic ability that 95% of the world doesn't have to play in the Jayhawk, because we are a pipeline to Division I schools for basketball. More kids out of our conference go than any other conference in the country. So there is an athletic factor to it, but then those are the 4 things we look for here. Good question.
And what's been the most rewarding aspect like throughout your whole journey? Like what's been really rewarding to see?
Personally, selfishly, like just being able to wake up every day, statistically, that's rewarding. From a coaching standpoint, I look back on every step of my journey, and Coach saved my life. And so I don't think I'm saving lives right now, but I think I'm impacting lives. And so that makes me feel like I know I can never repay the debt because I'm alive today because of people pouring into me. To me, that's a debt to those people. I have a debt, and I don't ever think I can repay it. But all I try to do is pass it forward. And so that's super rewarding that I get to coach these guys, and the guys that'll come 10 years from now, and the guys that have been in the last 4 years. Like I was telling Coach Kenny last night, I was like, think about as a coach the amount of people we've influenced, for the amount of people that we get to love on every day and make connections with is probably 100 times more than an average person outside of sports. Because think about it, you're gonna have your friends that you had in high school, you're gonna have your friends that you had in college, you're gonna meet your wife, you're gonna have a family, and you guys that come from families, like you're pretty busy being a parent, right? Or being part of a family. You're going to a sporting event every weekend. If you're in high school, band, whatever you're in, like your life gets busy and you're always going to something, so your circle doesn't grow. My circle grows by 15 to 40 every year. So it's a blessing to be a part of sports because your family grows every year. And I think that is rewarding in itself. Good question.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
5 years?
Yeah.
5 years, I would like to be back on a Division I sideline as a top 3 assistant, or I'd like to be a Division II or junior college head coach. Those are the two paths right now.
Joe?
Would anybody else like to ask another question? Are we good?
Appreciate y'all.
Let's give Coach McBride a hand.